Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Rachel and I am knitting. Not right now, but most of the time. And I have been knitting. So that means today's video is the next installment of my series called FO Diaries, which stands for Finished Object Diaries. This is the series where I show you my recent finished objects and tell you about the process of making them. As I mentioned in my last Finished Object Diaries video, this could pertain to knitting, crochet, sewing, cross stitch, what have you. So far, all of my finished object videos have been knitting projects, but I want to give myself permission to expand in the future should I choose to do so. But all that to say, today's project is another knitting project. Here it is. It's a hat. And look, it matches my glasses. How perfect is that? This is the Oslo Hat Mohair Edition. It's designed by PetiteKnit, and it's a paid pattern that you can purchase on Ravelry or PetiteKnit's website. Now, I have the pattern page open right now on Ravelry on my iPad, and it is listed for 30 Danish krone, which according to Ravelry translates to $4.57. So not too bad, not too pricey. So if you're looking for a hat pattern that is around $5, check this one out. But let's get into some more details about the pattern. To knit this pattern, you need 1 skein of fingering weight yarn and 1 skein of lace weight yarn. As you may be able to infer from the pattern name, Oslo Hat Mohair Edition, it is written for that lace weight to be mohair, but you can certainly sub that for an alternative fiber to match your lace weight. I did not use mohair myself. I used the Iveagh Lace yarn from Townhouse Yarns. Both of these yarns are actually souvenir skeins from the Irish Knitting Tour. But for my lace weight yarn, I use the Iveagh Lace from Townhouse Yarns, which is the in-house hand-dyed yarn for This Is Knit, a local yarn store in Dublin. And their Iveagh Lace is 42% baby alpaca, 35% silk, 13% fine merino, and 10% yak. So there's no mohair in my lace weight whatsoever, and it worked fine. So if you're considering subbing fibers for mohair, definitely do it. It's okay. You can play around with that. You don't need to stick to just mohair if you find a pattern you love that calls for lace weight and you'd rather use a different fiber. So take that or leave it. That's what I used for my strand of lace. And then for my strand of fingering weight, I used Life in the Long Grass, which is also an Irish hand-dyed yarn brand. So these two skeins I purchased at This Is Knit when we visited during our private shopping experience in Dublin on Monday, October 9th. That was kind of my purple day. I got 2 skeins of purple yarn and 10 purple buttons. So it was a great purple shopping trip, and I am very happy to say that those 2 souvenir skeins have been put to very good use and are now this finished object. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself though. Let me backtrack and tell you a little bit more about the pattern. So I've mentioned the price point of the pattern. I haven't mentioned the sizes you can make it. So according to the pattern page, there are sizes for baby, child, junior small, junior large, adult small, adult medium, and adult large. So there's a whole range of sizes that can accommodate the whole family. I have a big head, so I knit the adult large. Now, let me actually take a minute here and measure my head. So the measurements say that it should fit a head circumference of the smallest being 18.5 inches and the largest being 24 3/4 inches. So let me just see how big my head is. I don't think I've even measured my head. I just assumed I need to make the biggest size all the time. So maybe that was a false assumption. Let's find out together. Isn't this so fun? Okay, so what's that? 24? No, about 23 3/4. Yeah, so the largest size is 23.5 to 24 3/4. So I was right. I should have made the largest size. Should have made the largest size. which in fact I did. Now, there is a good amount of room, and it does stretch a little bit. This hat doesn't have ribbing or anything, so it's not as stretchy as it would be with ribbing, but there's a good amount of room. So I do think I could have sized down if I really wanted to, but I'm not upset with the fit by any means. And I do have some yarn left over. This is how much I have left of my fingering weight yarn. And this is how much I have left of my lace weight yarn. So certainly not enough to make another hat, but I do have a good amount left that I could make something with. Who knows? Maybe a rat. We'll see. In fact, let me measure how much I have left. Okay, so I have 39 grams of my fingering weight yarn left, and 18 grams of my lace weight yarn left. So I definitely used over half of each of these skeins. This one started as 50 grams. This one started as 100 grams. So I could not make another hat, but I will find a good use for them, to be sure. I really, really like how this hat turned out. I really like how the colors play together. I think it's really, really beautiful. So now let me talk to you a little bit about the construction of this hat before I take you through the process of me knitting it. So this hat is knit entirely in the round. So if you love knitting in the round, hats are a great option. This one you cast on, and it's an interesting construction because this is not the cast on edge. The cast on is actually up here. So the way that this hat construction works is you cast on your allotted number of stitches depending on the size you've chosen to make. And then you knit for several inches. I think for my size, it was about 8 inches or so in the pattern. And then you join your cast on edge to the row you're currently knitting. So this is double thick. I can't show you the inside, but you can see that I have the knit side here and the knit side here on both sides. So this is a double thick brim. Then after you've joined them together, which happens here, you pick up the stitches from your cast on and you knit them together with your current row once you've knit the allotted inches. Then you knit a little bit in stockinette. Okay, so this is where the stitches were joined, and then this is my little bit of stockinette, and then the pattern instructs you to turn. And I have always skipped that instruction in the pattern because it confused me. I did not understand it. But thanks to Leslie of Knit California, I was able to watch her videos and conceptualize what this turn means. Essentially, you're making a German short row one time and then continuing to knit in the round, catching that German short row on your next pass of the round. So you've knit your allotted knit rows after joining the brim. So this is now double thick. This is single thick, technical term. And now you turn. So you do the German short row. So this looks like you've purled it, but really it was knit. And since you've turned, you're now knitting on the wrong side. And it looks like knitting. So, well, it is knitting because you knit it. But it looks like this strip was purled, but it wasn't. You knit it, and then you just turned your direction. And then you knit the allotted inches to the crown, and you do your crown shaping. Now, the crown shaping on this pattern is made so there are 4 equal parts of crown shaping. So you have your hat divided into quarters essentially, and you decrease to very few stitches at the top and you sew it closed. Now with the brim being a double brim, then with this row that looks like pearls, you can fold that up and there you have a triple brimmed hat, because I have 2 layers here because it's folded in on itself, and then it's folded again to cover the forehead. So really, this is 3 layers right here, and everything after this fold and up to the crown is 1 layer. So if you live in a cold place that requires a triple layer hat, this might be something to consider. Or in fact, the Oslo hat, not Mohair Edition, which calls for 2 strands of fingering weight yarn. So this is a little lighter than the, you know, traditional or original Oslo hat. But it's also, you know, comfortable for me. I've worn it here in Baton Rouge and I have not overheated. I did wait for it to be like in the 40s one morning when I wore it. So don't, you know, just go out in 90-degree weather and 80% humidity and think you're going to have a good time, because I'm sure that you will not. But, you know, make it work for you. Wear it when you can. I've worn it down here in South Louisiana and it's been fine. Yeah, so that is the construction of the hat. Now I want to tell you a little bit about my experience knitting this. So the reason that I got this on my needles is because a few weeks ago, I got an email that I was 100% sure was a phishing attack. I thought I was being scammed. Turned out I wasn't. I was invited to be what's called a guest coach at a football game at my university where I work, and I needed to bring a knitting project with me, obviously. So that's what I did. And at the time, I was working pretty much exclusively on my clove sweater, which I'll tell you all about once I finish it. But I knew that I didn't want to bring my clove sweater to the football game because, one, I was at like a complicated part. I had just picked up the front stitches and I needed to follow the pattern. I needed to keep track of rows. I needed to count, and that's just not the environment to do that. Also, working on a sweater project, I need my full wingspan, you know? It's a big project. Whereas a small circumference project, such as a hat, I can do that with my elbows tucked in, you know, a crowded space in stadium seating, no problem. So I wound up my Iveagh Lace. I wound up my Life in the Long Grass. It was finally time for my souvenir skeins to get their, you know, their cast on going. So I wound those up into cakes and I brought them to the football game with me. So this was on November 11th when I wound up the cakes and I cast on and I brought to the game. I got some good progress on the knitting while we were at the game. And then we were not at the game anymore and I stopped working on it for a little bit. So worked on it on November 11th, started it then, got great progress, and then it kind of took a back seat until November 25th. So picked this up, got some rows in, and on November 25th, so a full 2 weeks after I had cast on, that is when I joined the cast on edge to my current row. So it took me 2 weeks to get to the folded brim part. Of course, I wasn't working on this consistently, but that gives you a timeline of you know, how long it might take if it's kind of on the back burner. If you're working on an Oslo hat, whether it's the original Oslo hat pattern or the Oslo Hat Mohair Edition, you could certainly make quick work of this and get to that turn sooner than I did. But for 2 weeks, when you're not really working on it, that's still pretty fast, I think. So that was good. And then by November 27th, I had cast off. So this was a quick project, less than 3 weeks, and it was on the back burner for the majority of it. So really over the course of like 5 days, 4 or 5 days, is when I finished this project. If it's the only project on my needles, I think it could have been done a lot sooner, but I'm totally fine with the timeline of events with knitting this pattern. Like I said, I do have a good amount of yarn left. I think I might even be able to make a shorty pair of socks with the Life in the Long Grass now that I think about it. yeah. So this video was probably short and sweet. There's not a lot to say. It's just a hat, but it's a good pattern, I think. It's straightforward, easy to follow, with the caveat that the turn instruction is pretty vague. Like, I like the designer to hold my hand a little bit and guide me through the process, and that doesn't happen in this pattern. But thankfully, Leslie of Knit California was able to, you know, supplement that hand holding from PetiteKnit and guide me through. And now I'm confident in the turn, no problem. I will say, with the hats that I've made previously, where I did not include the turn, it's not horrible. They're fine hats, but I will say that I like this better. Not because of this, but I like the feel of this better. It feels tighter around my head, a little bit more snug, a little bit more secure. I think it looks really professional, and I think it's a great finished item. So if you're looking for a gift to make someone, I think that this would be a great option. There's lots of sizes, like I mentioned, to fit a variety of head sizes. So fun for the whole family. But yeah, there are my thoughts on the Oslo Hat Mohair Edition. I enjoyed knitting this. I will probably knit more. If you found this video because you are considering making it, but you have been on the fence, take this as a sign that it's an enjoyable knit. It's a quick knit, and it's a good meditative TV knit or sports game, sports match, sports tournament. It's good to have in public when you don't have a lot of space or focus, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so that's all I have for you on today's edition of FO Diaries. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you don't already, and hit that notification bell to be notified of my next upload. Last but not least, head over to Instagram and follow me at Rachel is Knitting if you don't already. All right, that's all I have for today, so I'll see you next time. Bye.